Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator news and updates, and today we have a little bit of both for you, so stick around guys because I'm sure there's going to be some information here that you're going to enjoy hearing. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. All right, guys, so starting right out, some really awesome news up on FS Elite's website today. The PMDG 737 is nearing the announcement of a release date, and beta previewers are also getting close to being able to break the NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So a couple of things to really just highlight over with the 737. Robert, the lead developer for PMDG 737, has announced that progress is very much so nearing completion, at least to a point where they can announce the release date. As I said, beta testers and some content creators may start receiving some early access access to the aircraft. I'm hoping I'm one of them, but we'll see. And then he talked about quite a few of the features and the way the packages are going to be released, which I think is kind of nice. So real quick to touch on a few things. The Boeing 737-700 will be the first package that is launched. Now, that 700 will include all variants of the 700. You have your passenger, your cargo, and even the Boeing business jet, which I've actually never even checked out. I don't recall if it was a part of the PMDG 737 for X-Plane or not. I don't know that I ever took the time to really dive into that. But that's pretty awesome, and also everything will be customizable in many, many different ways, allowing you as the end user to tender the experience to your liking. Now, a few other things later on down the road, you're going to see the 737 600, 800, 900, and eventually the MAX series of aircraft. So we are starting with the 700, but fret not if you are someone who is looking for one of the later variants, the more advanced variants. Obviously, those will be coming down the road as well. Now, when it gets talking about features of the aircraft, there are many features that are going to be updated following the first 24 weeks after the initial release of the aircraft. And those are written here on the screen as a few examples of that, but obviously not limited to. Reason being, it has to do with staffing and prioritization of tasking. So while the aircraft is currently in development as it is now, obviously all hands on deck, just getting the aircraft ready to be released to the general public or us as the end users. Once those resources have been lifted a bit and the aircraft has been released, then what we're going to see is we're going to see an update to the aircraft every 2 weeks for an estimated every 20 or the next 24 weeks following the release of the aircraft. I think a 2-week update cycle is actually really impressive and I think extremely fair. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be concerned about is, and knowing PMDG, I doubt this is a concern, but the one thing that I would hit on that is to make sure that it is an auto update process, right? You sort of like Flybywire's Launchpad, you launch up a PMDG application, you update the aircraft, you launch the simulator. As long as you don't have to re-download it every single time, and then go to the website, check it out, make sure that's not update, etc. As long as they limit the end user work, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a very welcome feature. I am all about early access. I am all about beta models. I really have no problem with them whatsoever, and I think it's a very awesome process that they've laid out. I think what I'm really enjoying the most about Robert's post from PMDG here is that he's being very open, very clear-sighted as to what we can expect to happen. Now, if you also were a purchaser of the 737 NXGU, I believe it was, let me find that particular portion where we discussed the pricing. Give me just a second here. I want to make sure I get this right, guys. And we'll talk about performance in just a minute, but I know the dollar amount. There we go. 737 NGXU before 2020. You still get a $99.99 credit towards your PMDG 737. Now, that does give me a moment of pause and making me again wonder what the final price point is going to be for PMDG 737 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. However, I anticipated very early on that it was going to probably be in excess of $100. And I really don't mind paying that when it comes to PMDG's products. PMDG's products, the one thing that you have to give them is they've always been very, very up to par, if not above it. I mean, their products are always fully featured, fully operational, just really on top of the game. And when you're thinking about some of the sheer complexity of these systems working on the back end in a simulated environment, it's pretty tough to do. Like, I couldn't even imagine jumping into that. So anyone who does qualify for said credit will automatically have that credit applied on their PMDG account. Obviously, if you purchase said aircraft or you have a PMDG account, you would know. So if not, we just have to bite the bullet and pay the other price. I don't remember if I bought the NXGU or not, honestly. Talking to performance, one of the other things that I really enjoyed about this article is his quote here. My development rig is a 3-year-old system with an early i9 and a 2080 Ti running the 737 very smooth. He also goes on to give very specific examples and locations in which he was able to compare frame rate. 40 to 45 frames per second. That's a little bit better than what I get in the Flybywire A320 at, say, LAX, and I'm on a 3080 now. So, that's actually really comforting to hear. I actually just upgraded from a 2080 Ti. So that's really, really comforting to hear. That means that the frame rates are going to be about probably what you're getting right now with any other aircraft, and that's a really, really nice thing to hear. And then finally, in the bottom section here is when he did, it was addressed that beta testers and possible content creators are going to see a release of the NDA or the non-disclosure agreement, which will be very, very nice because then we'll get to finally start seeing the aircraft in action. I'm sure on YouTube being the primary platform, but you'll also see streamers as well. Robert himself also said that soon he will himself be putting out some videos for us to enjoy. So super, super excited. We had an initial quote of the 737 being released around August, September of 2020 when the simulator first launched. So obviously we're way past that. However, they get my applause on this because what they did is they didn't rush it. They didn't lie to anybody. They told us exactly what was going on, exactly what to expect, even with the features that are yet to come. Again, I think this is one of my greatest parts right here is where he flat out discussed, look, we're going to release it mostly complete. Here's some things that we're going to have coming down the line. Here's the reason why. He gave us a reason why. Almost nobody ever does that anymore. It just blatantly says we don't have the people to do it right now, but it's on our to-do list. And once we can free up some resources, here's what we're going to lay out for you guys to make sure you get your money's worth. I think this is incredibly fair, incredibly well written. I appreciate FS Elite staying on top of it, and I appreciate the resources from PMDG reaching out to us as the community and keeping us up to date on this aircraft. So, super excited. Be on the lookout. We should see something with the release of the NDA and an expected, hopefully, release date within the next 2 weeks. So, cross your fingers. Next up, a quick update from Just Flight on their BAE 146, and this is a pricing reduction of the aircraft. I think this part is really cool. So, obviously, the BAE 146 is getting ready to release. They're estimating, again, approximately April 25th of 2022. We should see this aircraft reach Microsoft Flight Simulator. Again, with Just Flight aircraft, you can always count on their aircraft being up to par, just as with PMDG, fully simulated, rich textured, and all that good jazz that comes with the aircraft. However, one of even my bigger shocks was that the original pricing of this aircraft was set at $80 US, and that was pretty high price point. Again, when you compare it with some of the other aircraft that are coming down the line, I didn't think it was too ridiculous. I admitted it was high. It was a bit high, but it still wasn't an aircraft that I was going to say no to. However, apparently after hearing the community's feedback, they have decided to readjust things, and now it is down to $64.99. And previous purchasers of this aircraft on P3D or X-Plane 11 will also still receive a 10% discount instead of the previously listed 20% discount. So $15 US reduction, 10% discount to those who owned it on previous platforms. Really awesome adjustment. I think that's absolutely fair. And it's nice to hear them hearing or taking the community's feedback. Again, that's epically important. Many companies, and especially even one as big as Just Flight, can absolutely just say, well, guys, we understand, but this is the price. They didn't do that. They adjusted it. They said, all right, let's bring it down a little bit, see if we can't get everybody's buy-in. So that shows ownership of your product. It shows a desire to push your product to the community, and it shows that you're actually hearing the community when they have an argument to said statement. So fantastic work from Just Flight. Really appreciate that effort there. Getting into updates, we have an update to a mod, or actually it's an extra tool. It's called Easy Controls for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they say it best in the description here. Think of it as a very light version of FSUIPC, or SPAD.next, or the AAO tool, Axis and O's. So essentially what it is it's an external program, much that I always swear by. So I use SPAD.next, and I have tested out this program. It works very, very nicely, but SPAD is a bit more feature rich, but you also have a $60 price tag with SPAD.next. So this is completely free. It's very lightweight. It works very, very, very well. It is much easier to manipulate the controls from outside of the simulator. I have advocated for third-party control programs for Microsoft Flight Simulator since almost its release. I think the in-game controls are just garbage, in my opinion. It's one of the few things of Microsoft Flight Simulator that I will say is garbage. The user interface for binding your controls is junk, in my opinion. The lack of feature-rich options and the ability to truly customize the cockpit to your liking, setting controls that aren't listed in the GUI, I think is just, it's lazy. It's lazy to me. And so when you use something like SPAD.next or like this Easy Controls for Microsoft Flight Simulator or the Axis and O's, you get many more features and control options that aren't listed in the Microsoft Flight Simulator GUI. There are a bunch of other controls and access assignments that you can do that you don't see in the GUI. So this is why I say it's lazy on Asobo's part that it comes down to this, and any program that really brings it down to it. If the control is there, if you have the option to do this, which we clearly do, then put it in the damn GUI so everyone can enjoy it without having to worry about one of these. But luckily, we have fantastic developers like Easy Controls and SPAD.next and the Axis and O's and FSUIPC7. Okay, I think that's it to solve a lot of these problems for us. And what they do is they communicate with the simulator on the back end, really being able to pull the code and create those extra features that aren't available in the GUI by default. So it is a really, really awesome little program. He fixed a major issue that was preventing me from reviewing this on the channel, which was a crash to desktop issue, but that has since been resolved. So I wanted to let you guys know it was here. Next up on our list is a really, really cool add-on. Requires a bit of work to get it configured and get it set up the way you like, but that is Luke Air Tool. I have talked about this one quite a few different times in the past, but this is another one that definitely needed to be brought up. It has a ton of incredibly powerful features in it. It goes far beyond what its initial conception was, which was more of an immersion add-on than anything. You have passenger announcements, pilot announcements, things like that that can really improve the immersion aspect of your flight, but it does far, far more. Here's just a quick list of all of the features, or I would say some of the features that are primarily used in the Luke Air Tool software. Now, this is one that I actually let go of a few weeks ago because of this. I was getting error after error after error. Every time I tried to do something, it was bringing me a problem, and that seems to have been finally resolved. So I definitely want to make sure that those of you who enjoyed Luke Air Tool as much as I do, definitely were aware that it has been once again updated. So score to Luke Air Tool once again. This is, guys, I can't tell you enough. It is an amazing add-on that does a ton of things. It is very, very powerful. You have a bunch of customization options. You can do custom sounds. There are charts that are built into the database. There it is right there. You have a bunch of bunch of different options and availability with this particular application. I highly suggest, if you are, especially if you are into commercial flight, I would say that's definitely where it shines, is commercial flight. So if you're into commercial flight and you've never tried it before, give it a download, watch a couple YouTube videos on it. If you guys like, let me know in the comments below and I can do a full video on this application. But it is a really, really cool app to have on board. New Light continues to update again and again and again. I am going to continue preaching this one because there is such a massive difference in the lighting effects that are generated by this add-on versus the default Microsoft Flight Simulator lighting system. These are absolutely incredible. It does such a wonder with the aircraft and your exterior lighting, to right down to the point it truly brightens the sim up without sounding too corny there. But here is the latest improvements. We have the CJ4 for Asobo and the working title version, increased nav lights for the 777, and the addition of the A330 model as well. So this is just one of, or a few of many aircraft, as you can see here, that have already been adjusted and have these lights available. They are a very, very immersive, very, very bright, yet not overpowering when you're trying to take your screenshots or watch things from the external views. It makes the taxiing and landing experience seem far more realistic, giving you a much better illumination without looking fake. If you can do that on a simulator, hopefully you guys understand what I mean by that. So I'm going to keep popping this one out as he continues to update it, because it updates rather quickly, and I really, really, really recommend you guys give this one a shot. Finally, last on our list today is the Msfs 2020 Google Map replacement. Now, I want to be very careful that I am telling you guys that this add-on is here. I am telling you that it has been tried and is very, very good. I do absolutely prefer the Google Maps images better. You don't see them on my channel for some licensing and concerns there, as far as broadcasting the use of an object that isn't default to the simulator and using Google Maps instead of the Bing Maps, which is actually licensed with the software. However, with that being said, it does absolutely work significantly better than the Bing Map images. It looks much, much nicer. The injection process is much easier to do now. Anytime I'm flying solo and not recording, I am using the Google Maps interface. I think that the images that it generates look much more natural. The coloring is much more natural. There aren't as many weird textures and things where they don't belong. Google Maps seems to be much more updated than the Bing Maps are, which is definitely a big plus. You're getting much more current and recent satellite imagery as opposed to the Bing Maps, which seem to be at times significantly older, depending on where you are and where you're looking. So anyway, that was the last on the list. I just wanted to touch on that, let you guys know this is a very, very well done add-on. And like I said, the injection process was right there on the screen. It is no longer, you don't have to muck with a whole bunch of things or change this out, change this out. It has an executable. You set it, forget it, rock your sim. But as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and found some useful information in it. Let me know if there's anything specific that you'd like to see covered down below. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that bell if you enjoy the content so you can get notified of future videos that are coming out. And as always, above everything else, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.